Time for good old Instagram. Let's see what Instagram can do for us.
Humping around on a Wednesday on the Smoke Street.
We're having to do this all the time with Instagram.
Trust the process. Please be patient. We are working to get through the internet to your phone screen as we speak, as you hear Heisenbud typing away.
People want to hear what we got to say here when it comes to this. Very opinionated. This isn't just my opinion either. I went and scoured the internet for this information.
Uh-oh.
Thinking of a master plan. Step with the record. Step with the record.
We are working. It's all the way live.
Oh, I think we're doing it. I think we're on. I don't know. At this point,
all the way live. I'm live on BDG.
That's right. I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on Facebook. We're both live. We're the Smoke Stream 2026. That's my man, BG. I am Bob the Cannabis Cowboy, and we are here not to judge, although I agree with most of the strains on this list. We're going to talk about the top 5 strains from then and now. And I want you to take a real – I had to scour the internet for this photo. If you look at the left photo, there's a lot of pop culture stuff from back in the day all the way up to about 20 or maybe 2000, 2010 possibly. And the pictures all on the right are all modern day stuff. I was pretty happy that I was able to find that, if I'm being honest, and put it together. Even though it's just a little tiny picture, people aren't really checking that out. But we're going to go over some strains. And we were just talking about different strains. What are the strains you've got in your house right now, BG?
Man, look, I found this new strain and it actually cracked my top 5 as a result today, baby. And I said it when you said it, and I texted to you, and you was like, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Yeah, what the fuck? It's electric watermelon, baby.
Oh shit!
I'm like, yeah, give me a slice of that.
Yeah,
I was like, come on, bring me some of that. Yeah, it's really good.
That's a bit of an Afgooey cross. I know that off the bat. It's an Afgooey cross, and I know that it's got some OG Kush in it. So the fact that it's a sativa-leaning hybrid, I think, is kind of insane.
Yeah, shout out to Clear Choice Cannabis. It's friends with flowers up here in the Evergreen State. So if you're a Cowboys fan looking to come to, the Pacific Northwest this fall, because beware, just like we told the football fans, the weed is stronger in Seattle.
And I'm talking to a lot of my friends lately that saw our episode a few weeks ago and said, you know what, Bob, you're right. It's too strong now. And I think we're also getting to that age now where weed's just hitting us differently. So it may be a little bit of both. So I can't really complain.
Stop, Bob. It's the THC percentages. It's all about the THC percentage on the bag.
Oh my, you're right, man. That's the one and only thing that you should be gauging this by, folks. We kid. I 100% am enjoying something called Gas Face right now, and I have to share this with you because it is a face mints crossed with biscotti and Sherb B1, but these nugs in particular are absolutely huge, and they look really, really, really nice. Gas Face is doing it for me right now, so I'm going to light up, and we're going to have this conversation. You got some strains that you're all-time are right now, BG? Because I know we've had this conversation multiple times. But can you think of like maybe 2 or 3?
Yeah, like I said in the green room before we got on the show, normally we're always figuring out on Monday or Tuesday what we're going to talk about on Hump Day. And when you hit me with the show's already scheduled, I was like, yes, I didn't have to pitch in on the assignment. And Bob has it. And then I go and I look, I'm excited. I'm going to say, let me go see what the title is so I can get ready for the show today. And I say, top 5 then and now. And I'm like, man, I'm struggling to make a top 5 list. And I think that's why maybe this electric watermelon may have cracked it, but I got it at my number 4 currently. And then of course at 5 is, always reliable Jack Herrera. I'm a sativa head. You know, I got to go with the OG. That was definitely on my list last go round. I think Jack may have been around in the top 2 or 3, maybe the top. But yeah, Jack and some electric watermelon have definitely cracked my top 5 for 2026.
That's beautiful, man. Jack Herrera, rest in peace to Jack Herrera. That strain has lived just an incredible life since he passed away, and even when he was alive, because that's something he grew for himself.
But I think that's why I'm so attached to it, Bob, is because
possibly
when you know how the story behind the strain, you know, for those that don't know, Jack Herrera is a big advocate for the legalization of cannabis.
He was a big man in the movement for sure, man. Yeah, he did a lot of great stuff. There's Rick Simpson oil. There's a lot of stuff that's named after a lot of folks. I urge all of you folks to actually go look at the names. If you find something that's named after a human, go look that person up, because chances are they did some really, really good stuff for the cannabis movement. So that's basically it. I'm smoking on the gas face, like I said, and it's a hybrid because I've learned listen, I clocked in today at 3 a.m. BG. That's not even a lie. I had 8 caterings today. It was the craziest day I've had in a while. And so I needed to make sure that I kept a little bit of a level head for this, because if not, I'd be snoring by the time the end of this show popped up. So,
man, y'all give it up for Heisenbud, man. Clocking in on the day job just to come out here to stream for the 5 or 10 of y'all that may come and join us every week. Y'all give it up for my guy. Give him his virtual flowers for showing up and getting the show back on the road today, because I know last week, you know, we had a little time out. But we back on it this week with that top 5, man. I'm giving you your flowers, Bob. Thanks for tapping in after a long day today.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody in the BDG group right now chiming in. Everybody on my channel on YouTube. I really appreciate you guys coming by, hanging out. Some of y'all watch this after the fact, and that's totally fine. I don't expect you to be as hardcore as good old Dougie over here. But, you know, we're going to go over this list. I hope you can agree with it. I want to let you folks know, too, this isn't an opinion thing for just me. I didn't really have any input on any of this. I scoured the internet. I went to hightimes.com, allbud.com, leafly.com, about 4 or 5 different places that have been basically call themselves cannabis historic sites. So you can go over there and look up strains. You can look up lineage and all that good stuff. I went there and just started crossing all these popular names of strains that have been basically popping up. And I've come up with, and I think most people agree, the top 5 from then. And by then, I mean from the beginning of the cannabis movement in the 60s all the way up to, let's call it like 2010. And what's crazy about that is for all that time that spanned the 60s all the way up to 2010, you would think that we would have the same amount of strains that we have right now, but we don't. We had very basic strains. We didn't think about cannabis back then as a strain-specific stuff. Like, okay, this is Maui Wowie. Yeah, that's Panama Red. But it didn't really matter. Bro,
it's a bag of weed. What you want, man? It's green.
Well, it's what it did to you that 15, really everybody wanted to know about.
Coming up in that time, like, yeah, everybody gets real scientific about things. Now it's like, is it indica? Is it sativa? Is it hybrid? Is it indica leaning or sativa leaning? What is the THC percentage? How much is the terpenes? What kind of flavor do you get? All that type of stuff.
Yeah, and that comes. So there's a little bit of entitlement with all this, and I understand that. It's kind of the part of it that annoys me. But you know, back then it was just like the bag appeal. Was it sticking to the bag? Because then you knew the trichomes were really nice and it was oily. There's a lot of different things, but it was a simple thing for us. We just looked at it, smelled it. It was like everything else. We smell it, look at it, taste it. You know what I mean? Like now we go through a bunch of different metrics, and that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is we didn't have a lot to choose from back then. And from the late 60s all the way to 2010, I want to say that there were maybe 10 or 15 really, really big popular strains. And everything else was sort of a spin-off from them. So everything that we're currently smoking right now is because of the strains I'm about to talk about right now. And again, so like I said, we broke this up into then and now. So we might as well just start off with then, because it seems like so long ago that I was even coming near any of this cannabis. So number 5, and this is one of those things where I'm going to go ahead and pop this graphic up for you and give you a little bit of synopsis of the cannabis, hopefully not bore the hell out of you. But I really, I think this is a great list. And I remember smoking all of these, and I have great memories of them because, again, this is, you know, I came up in a different time when, like I just said, it wasn't really a lot of different strains. So if you got the good stuff, you got the good stuff.
I love the visuals, man. Help us get the bigger picture, Bob.
Yeah, no doubt. I just want to say what's up to Sterling. I saw somebody pop
in. What up, Sterling? I seen he gave 100 stars on Build Different Group. Appreciate that. Chiming in and tapping in with the support, dog. Appreciate that.
Dougie knows about the bag appeal. It was a big thing back in the day. You wanted to make sure that it looked nice, and it just doesn't smell right. And in Miami, you had that moldy smell that you had to watch out for because it was so humid in Miami. We got a lot of moldy cannabis, and people tried to pawn it off on us. So.
The bag appeal now is you can fuck around and be a meme and be on a weed bag by the next day, huh? Like when people get knocked out in a boxing ring or something like that, and then they put you on a bag of cannabis. I think that happened to old boy that won the NBA dunk competition. I think he entered a fight contest. I can't remember his name. Anyway, I remember the next day they had him on. I know it's kind of off topic, but bag appeal. That's what I think about is. Yeah, it looks good, but oh shit, that was a meme. Yeah, let me try that weed because of the meme.
Bags they're not clear anymore either. So there's no bag appeal. They're usually in dark pill cases or the foil bags and stuff like that. Sometimes they are transparent, but for the most part, they aren't because you don't want light hitting that cannabis all the time either. That's something that degrades terpenes and as well as what they call the crystals, which are not crystals. It's
I think
oil.
I shared this before. I don't normally, and although this electric watermelon is in the bag, and that's why I say don't ever discredit the bag because I really prefer my cannabis to come in glass where I can see it.
Well, yeah,
because you know what I mean. Great. I definitely want to be able to look at it, and I've also had better experience with cannabis in glass versus over bag. However, don't knock the bag. Even like what Bob says, when it comes to bag appeal, you can't see. It's kind of luckily on this one, it was a little different. They had a little opening on the back, and I was like, okay, cool. I can see at least what the flower looks like because a lot of us who partake in some cannabis, when you look at some flower, you'll know right off the top it's crunchy or if it's soft, it looks sticky. What its textures? Is it beautiful? Is it sexy? All that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, let's roll into it right now. The then strains from back in the days, the stuff that I grew up on and a lot of older folks grew up on, and the stuff that is the backbone and the spine of the strains that make the strains that we know right now. So starting off with number 5, boom. I don't know anybody from back in the day who tried this and has not absolutely fallen in love with this. This was the very first strain that had a very pungent, zesty, tangy lemon flavor. It was very lemon zesty and lemonade-y, basically. And it was really made up of two of the more prominent strains from back in the days, which was Silver Haze and Lemon Skunk. You'll get Super Lemon Haze will be a mixture of Super Silver Haze and Lemon Skunk. So there was all kinds of offshoots that came from this. And once you've tasted this cannabis before, you will remember it. I know you've tasted this before, BG. Do you have any memories of Lemon Haze other than the striking greenness and orangeness of that bud?
Yeah, anything Lemon Haze, anything lemon, like shout out to Scored out here in Washington, SKORD. And it's a little off the Lemon Haze. I don't know if this actually, it's got lemon in it. The Lemon Shortbread by Scored, that's the lemon that I've been on lately. Not buying any lemons like cars, but Lemon Shortbread, man, look, that is probably the sexiest flower I have seen in Washington State, and it's probably the most potent too. So I had to put them number 1 on my list, coming in at top, on my top 5 today, because that Lemon Shortbread, not only does it look sexy, it's as good as advertised.
Lemon Skunk and Sin Mint is what makes up that strain you were talking about, my friend.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. I actually tried different. Once I got into Lemon Shortbread, I looked at other distributors like Freddy's Fuego, other brands. I looked for the same strain in other brands too to try it out, and it's been pretty consistent.
Mexican Silver Bud. Oh my God. It was the good stuff, man. Yeah, so the lemon, I'm right up there. Lemon Haze has to be up on this list because it's one of those things that turned into Lemon Skunk. All the lemon flavored cannabis down the line was because of this particular strain. So that's number 5. I think it has to be mentioned because, again, other than it being a pivotal strain from things that went forward with it, back then when you first tried Lemon Skunk, there was no cannabis around that smelled and tasted like lemon. This was one of the very first beginnings of what we called kryptonite, the really sticky, icky shit in Miami that was just really, really good stuff that was different than the regular Colombian and South American bud we were getting. We didn't see pressed bud in Miami, Florida. That wasn't out there. We were getting straight nugs from South America all the time. I didn't see Mexican bud until I moved to Texas. So
is that the origin of the sticky, icky is out of the flaw?
I mean, honestly, Mexico was really the pioneer. They were the ones that came up with Sinsemilla. They found out that making sure that you could pull the males away from the females so they didn't get infected with seeds, you would have less weight. You can transfer more bud across the border. They were very smart, and they made some really killer cannabis. But the South Americans were doing it as equally as well for a long time, and we got really a lot of that stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the cannabis that we didn't know about actually might have been lemon haze and some of the things that were predating actual lemon haze and things like that. It was, people had all kinds of seeds back then. They didn't know what they were doing, man. The only people that did were the Deadheads and Grateful Dead shows. That's how we got most of it.
I remember growing up, my father was breaking down a brick of Mexican weed in the living room of Oklahoma City. I'm like, damn, that's a big, I knew it was weed, but I didn't know, like, that's weed. Like, he just break all the seeds, you can see it, and he's got it in a big bar tray, aluminum bar tray, like they, take around in the bars, and he's separating the seeds from all of it. Yeah, no sticks, no seeds, no stems.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's number 4 right now. Number 4 from back then, the spine of some great cannabis, Hindu Kush. Here we go. I mean, we're thinking that that's kind of like the mix right there. I don't know that it's actually the truth. I actually screwed that up down there. That the origins of Hindu Kush are not silver haze and lemon skunk. I'm sorry about that right there. The real issue here is the fact that when it comes to this Hindu Kush, it's from the Hindu Kush mountains, but they don't really have strains that they can tell you that they came from. It's believed to be one of the oldest landrace strains in existence, which landrace strains are basically pure indigenous varieties of cannabis to that region. And they've adapted to specific environments, and this particular cannabis has done that as well. We've got Hindu Kush is characterized by distinct aroma, flavor, and effects. It does have dense, resinous buds. So once you see this Hindu Kush for the first time, it's the very first indica I ever saw, and it reminded me of incense. It reminded me of lavender. It reminded me of some stuff that didn't smell like the fruity sativa cannabis I was used to. And once I smoked it, I got knocked out. So again, the true origins of this, meaning the people that are going to tell you, hey, it's this strain or that strain that makes up Hindu Kush. And again, I apologize. It's not silver haze and lemon skunk. That was a carryover from the first graphic. The Hindu Kush is just a strain in and of itself. And it was able to grow in some crazy conditions up in the mountains. And it's just really, really good, strong indica. It's really the spine of most of the indica. And speaking of the spine of some indica, number 3 on the list right now, boom, White Widow. BG, you ever smoke some White Widow? Anybody out there smoking?
I have not smoked White Widow yet. I remember us talking about this on another episode, and going back to Hindu Kush, I don't think I've had that either. So 0 for 2 on you there, big dog.
So this apparently was seeds were procured by Scott Blakely, known as Shanti Baba. He was a cannabis breeder. He wound up getting some seeds from local varieties in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Burma. This goes all the way back to 1986, this strain, at least in terms of him procuring the genetics that he needed for them. And I think somewhere around the 1990s, it wound up going to Holland, and that's where things started getting really, really good. They were breeding it in mass numbers back there. And it's just a really, really great, strong indica. It's one of those things they talked about back in the days. And these strains I'm talking about are the first strains that were actually named something. There was a lot of strains that I'm sure were misnamed, but this was something that was found and created. And it was one of the first, I guess, production kind of cannabis for back in the days in the 90s, very early 90s, 1990. You weren't really talking about strains until this started popping up. We started seeing lemon haze, and other than that, it was just green bud or kind bud. Like we didn't know the names of things, and we didn't get scientific until the 90s. But the 90s is going to make up a lot of this particular cannabis. So no White Widow for you, huh, BG?
No, not yet. I'm gonna have to keep my eye out, especially White Widow and Hindu Kush. So they're on my radar now.
These are all seeds that I own because they're part of my classic cannabis line that I'm eventually going to grow. Number 2 on the list, my friends, you know her, you love her, Skunk number 1. This is the strain that I first smelled that stank like skunk. I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense why I loved it. But skunk is one of the most widely known and grown cannabis strains in the world. It's an Afghani indica purebred and some sativa land races mixed in there. It's really, really good. Sam the Skunk Man, I believe, is the person who is who's credited with making this strain popular, and it's one of the best strains. It's one of you that I never forgot, because again, up until that point, I was smelling melon, lemon, incense. There was a few bubblegum. There's 4 or 5 very common smells, and when skunk showed up, oh my God, it was one of those things where you had to leave it outside. Your freaking house was going to smell.
Is that why they called it skunk, you think?
It's exactly why they called it skunk. And on top of it, it was one of the beginnings of those people are starting to notice that cannabis smells really good. And there's different kinds that smell different. And skunk was that first one that people were either repelled by it or were like, oh my God, get my face in the bag right now. And I certainly was the latter, because skunk was one of my favorites. It's one of those that just, you were able to cross it with everything because it was such a strong strain. And you've got Acapulco Gold, Colombian Gold, and Afghani in there. Now, some purists are going to say that the Colombian Gold was not part of this lineage. I'm putting it in there because that's what most websites agreed on. And I believe that to be true, that even though that Colombian Gold might have sort of fallen into the mixture in some way, or maybe it was pollinated by it, we don't know. There's a lot of craziness involved with these old strains. They're not they were guarding these recipes, is what I'm going to call them, really hardcore back then, because they didn't want anybody else basically biting off them and then saying, hey, this is mine, when no, I came up with that strain. So it was a lot more underground competitive to have really good bud. And whoever came up with skunk, which again, we're crediting Sam the Skunk Man, obviously, with doing that. He basically changed the face of cannabis from there on. So
I mean, I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I remember, coming up and first experimenting, with cannabis, and people would be like, don't smoke that skunk. Don't be getting, is that skunk? Oh, I want that skunk. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, the skunk is what you want. And it was basically a smell of higher class or more pungent cannabis. And like I said, it was such a juxtaposition to these citrusy, bright smelling sativas that I was getting in Miami at the time. So I was just very lucky to see all of this cannabis growing up, man. There was not a strain that didn't get by me. I just wanted to know about it at a very early age, and I found the hell out about it for sure. Yeah. We have anybody chatting out here? Russell's in here joining us.
That skunk is nasty. It's a stanky, danky. What up, top?
Yeah, that's the beginnings of that smelly stuff. And you would think that it would repel people, but that's what you started asking for. Oh, is that skunk? That skunk weed. You got that skunk bud. It stinks like skunk. You know what I mean? It was one of the first things that sort of attached itself to a culture and just went on. But, I don't think there are many out there that kind of did to cannabis quite what number one did.
I knew it.
Gentlemen, you know it, you love it. BG called it. I mean, there's absolutely you cannot deny this. The number one strain throughout the 90s, for sure. We're talking about different versions. Bubba Kush. This is ocean grown Kush. And it is Hindu Kush, what we just spoke about before, mixed with Chem Dog. And there's a million different theories on how this particular strain came to be what it was. This is one of those things where I believe Chem Dog was, accidentally added to the mix. But we're talking about a mixture of people taking credit, like Matt Bubba Berger from Florida and Josh D, the breeder from Los Angeles. Both of them are going to tell you a moderately different story on how this strain came to be, but it doesn't really matter in my mind so much how it came to be as much as it matters that it did, because this was this is the strain I fell in love with. Kush is my absolute all-time strain.
If y'all know that I know Bob, he's always big up in OG Kush. It's not anything new. That's why when he popped it up, I said, oh, I knew it had to be OG Kush, so.
If you do the research, you'll find that too, man. People, it was one of those things that it just blew up because the 90s blew this cannabis up. And again, we have to credit Cypress Hill.
I was about to say, I thought Chem Dog was in Cypress Hill. That's what I was going to say.
Chem Dog, Bubba Kush and pre-98 Bubba was really Cypress Hill's strain. They championed that strain. But again, this is still a version of OG Kush, which is what Bubba Kush is.
Isn't one of the members of Cypress Hill named Chem Dog?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
That would be pretty sick, though. I got to say that. No, but they did make it very popular, versions of Kush, and it just became one of those things where people were like, oh, shit, OG Kush blew my mind. Let's start breeding because these folks are coming up with killer stuff. And it really just started a big breeding boom. I'm trying to see if we can get some, despite the fact the parents used, hold on. I think I thought for sure I saw a specific year, and that's really what I want to kind of get to here because
anything I've seen with OG Kush in it, man, I'm like, oh, that's Bob shit. Let me get, I don't know, that shit gotta be good. Let me try that out.
Yeah, it just did so well in terms of breeding. Oh, it even says right here, due to being a strain created in LA and considered one of the favorites of a lot of VIPs in the city, it's believed that the name of the strain could be a tribute to the hip hop scene of the 90s. There's a lot of stories that confirm these letters mean original gangster, name coined by one of the members of Cypress Hill. So, I mean, again,
I thought Kim Dog. I thought that was one of the guys, not the singer, but the other guy. I thought
that would be a Sen Dog.
Sen Dog. Okay, Kim Dog, Sen Dog, same shit. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got some credit because the lineage did go back to Cypress Hill in the 90s in LA there.
Master Ace is Sen Dog's brother, I think.
Oh wow. Oh, the
other hip hop. Master Ace Incorporated. Yeah, we're going back, dude. Damn, we're dating ourselves, but that's a jam. That was a jam,
Ace is the beat, dog.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go look that up now. I have to fire some OG Kush up and start talking about it. But look at that nug. It's exactly what you wanted it to be, man. Dark green and orange. Look at the plant on the right. It grows. Let me tell you, the other thing about this is it grows in such concentric golf ball nugs that you can grow these plants for so long and flower them and just get like softball sized nuggets from it. They're absolutely gorgeous. I'm 100% on board. What do you think about that top five from back in the days?
Bro, still, I knew OG was going to be on there for you. That was like, was it a year or a couple years ago we did that list initially? Had to been, because I know we've been doing this podcast, or we've been talking about Bud on Facebook here for about at least 4 years.
Years, man. Yeah, I just went and looked back on the Square Groupers podcast catalog, and it's deep. We went deep on that show, so we covered a lot of stuff.
Because I think that's how we came up with that show. Was like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Let's just name our top 5 strains. Okay, good.
Right, we'll figure it out. What is that? I could have guessed who hasn't had that. Everyone I know has. I think you're talking about OG. Yeah, that's OG. Probably the case, man. Again, that's the reason why it was just so popular. So again, the top 5, we're going with Lemon Haze, Hindu Kush, White Widow, Skunk number 1, and OG Kush. Now, I want to also point out that the reason why this is called Skunk number 1, because this particular first iteration of skunk is what most people are going to go talk about when they're talking about skunk. There's been other versions of skunk that have been grown. So I think Skunk Man wanted to make sure that he let everyone know that particular strain is his. And that's the way it is. So
who would have thought that, cannabis was so technical, right? People somebody may be watching this for the first time. Damn, weed is that technical? Like, yeah, man, it's like scientific. You know what I mean?
What's beautiful is it started becoming technical way before we started selling it legally. So the reason why the industry was able to boom like it did is because the growers were freaking intelligent. They adapted for decades over the years. They were breeding, backdoor breeding, quiet breeding, underground breeding for decades, specifically for these strains that they do. And as soon as it went legal, it was just, everyone was already growing, man. So it's one of the only industries that finally became legal and just blew up because everyone had the information on how to make it blow up. And thusly, all of the strains I just talked about, Skunk number 1, OG Kush, White Widow, Hindu Kush, Lemon Haze, those are all the backbones to the strains that I'm about to talk about right now. And that's the top 5 from now. So basically nowadays, modern day cannabis. I'm thinking, I know that when I looked and did this list, it was a little weird. I didn't believe number 5 at all to be on the list. It was just a little too connoisseur for me to think that everybody loved it, but it kind of makes sense. So, folks, nowadays, modern day cannabis, we're talking 99, let's say 2002 right now, 2026. The number 5 all-time cannabis from that time is apparently Gorilla Glue number 4.
GG.
Oh, look at that gorgeous, just
Yeah.
shooting trichomes out of that plant over there on the right. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Put on your green dress.
Chem's sister, Chemdog's sister, Sour Dub, which I believe is Sour Diesel and Bubba, and Chocolate Diesel come together to make this absolute dankalicious strain. I love this strain so much. So it is Sour Dub, Chocolate Diesel, Chem's sister, all in there. I believe this is one of those strains that something was accidentally pollinated. It says here that over the course of a few days led to Chemcis Sour Dub plants to hermaphrodite and display intersex traits and produced male flowers. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what that means, but if you've got a female plant that is guaranteed to put buds out, sometimes stress can cause those to hermaphrodite and actually put out seeds. So I've had autoflowers do this. It's called herming, and it happens every once in a while. And apparently the person who grew GG4 the first time was so paranoid that he was about to get raided that he moved the 50 plants that he was growing to somebody's house, and then subsequently later moved it back. And this is what caused that plant to hermaphrodite. And that's how this plant and this strain came to be Gorilla Glue number 4, because of sort of an accidental discharge of pollination, self-pollination. So it's actually kind of crazy when you think about that. A lot of accidents are pretty happy accidents, but we're talking about one of the strains that is super popular right now. And I know you've had it. What do you think about Gorilla Glue?
Yeah, anything with some GG in it, man. You know, OG, GG, BG, all the G's. Yeah, you got all the G's and everything, man.
G'd up. Yeah, that's it's a delicious strain. I remember the first time I tried it was one of the first strains that actually had like a very pineapple taste to it. It had sort of a fruity taste that I couldn't kind of put my finger on, but I was blown away by it the first time. If I find it, which I don't find it a lot by itself anymore. And we could go into another episode completely and take all of these strains and show what they've become, but that's just too insane because the tree that all of these strains branch from is quite crazy. And GG4 is one of those that we basically landed on because we're talking about Chem Sister being an offshoot of Chem Dog, Sour Dub being, Sour Diesel and Bubba, and Chocolate Diesel. So, I mean, those are very strong, hardy strains, and that's 3 different strains in one already right there. So who knows how many strains have made up the other things that GG4 was part of, but God,
so going back to that story, you said that the plant was stressed because the dude was stressed, or it was stressed because it changed locations and while it was growing. Like I didn't understand that part.
Okay.
Because it makes sense, like either way. Because I was like, that's a pretty cool story.
He's talking. It basically says the story begins in 2009. So 2009 is the beginning of GG4. Josie decided to take up growing and smoking again after a long hiatus, working 20 years as a crane operator, yada, yada, yada. He went to Grayskull and Zoolander, who were two growers back then, and they met up and handed over Sour Dub and Chem Sister or something like that. Sometime after that, he was running a 1-gallon pot stadium grow with cuts of Chocolate Diesel, Sour Dub, and Chem Sister along some hybrids of Chem Sister and Sour Dub. And they came from another grower. After a security scare caused by an unexpected and unrelated visit from the police, Josie was obliged to dismantle his entire garden, around 80 plants, and move the whole setup to a friend's house before the next day. After a week or so of waiting, he felt that the coast was clear again, so he retrieved the plants and set up the grow once more. However, the stress of moving the house twice in the course of just a few days led Chem's sister, Sour Dub, to Hermy, which is what I just said, and produced male flowers, pollinating the entire room in the process. Jonesy wasn't happy at all and ended up giving most of the weed away, but luckily his friend Marlon kept some of the results just in case. And so that's how we were able to keep getting this strain. Absolutely insane. One of those happy accidents. I mean, I produced 60 plants underground in Texas, and I didn't pull the males in time, and I was able to grow another grow after that off of those seeds, and those seeds produced some amazing cannabis. So that was before I even knew. I don't even know about breeding right now as much as I know about growing. But when I found that out, I was mind blown. I was like, wow, I just accidentally pollinated my own plants. And now I'm going to use those seeds, and it's just like a next generation thing. And they were just really good. So you just never know when these accidents can happen and do some good stuff. Most of the accidents that I've had.
So I like streaming with you every Wednesday, man, because I'm always learning something. Y'all give it up. Y'all hit the like button, man. Let's go. Bob is a connoisseur of bud. You see his nickname over there now? It says Heisenbud. Yeah, that's the dude, man. He's breaking down the periodic compounds here for everybody. And that way, you know, the history of where the origins of where it came from. Heisenberg.
Say my name. Heisenberg. All right, rock and roll, man. Number 4. This is one that I made fun of for a very long time. I was tired of seeing it. It was just everywhere. And that, my friends, is ice cream cake. Look at those plants, though, man. Wedding cake and gelato number 33. I don't know what happened to the first 32 iterations of gelato, but I'm glad they landed on 33 because it is one of the fruitiest flavor cannabis you'll ever have in your life by itself. Mix it with wedding cake, and you've got some really, really good flavor. I was extremely happy after I started smoking it because it did some good things for me. Ice cream cake is an indica-dominant hybrid. This offers sedating effects that leave your mind and body completely relaxed. Ice cream cake features a creamy flavor profile with sweet hints of vanilla and sugary dough. That is my point with this one. This was one of the very first strains that I tried that did have that sort of, I want to call it vanilla icing flavor, which is kind of weird. It's weird to get a creamy flavor out of something you smoke, man. What's your
that's some pretty ass weed, man. You know what I mean?
It really is.
Yeah, when you look at it up close like that, and like that's a part of like when I'm in the buying process at a dispensary, you know what I mean? You know where Bob was talking about you can't see through the bag, you know. This type of flower, you're gonna be like, oh wow, like you don't see that kind of beautiful flower, you know, compared to a lot of other flowers. No, love the wedding cake, yeah, man. That's woo-wee. Yeah, the prettier the flower, the better, man. You know what I mean? The prettier, the more attractive I am to it.
And I don't know if anybody's had any offshoots of wedding cake. I know wedding cake is a cherry. God, there's a sativa in there, but there's a reason why it's called wedding cake, obviously. And again, it's one of the first that ice cream cake is one of those first that I tried that had this weird creamy flavor to it. And again, all of these strains are from Good Chemistry. I've tried. Every single strain I've named here, I could have gotten at Good Chemistry at one point, or can get them right now, especially these top 5 I'm going to talk about right now. But the ice cream cake from Good Chemistry is absolutely amazing, and that's sort of what changed my mind on the strain. I just saw it everywhere. I got tired of seeing it. It seems like, you know, I'm a bit of a purist, and when I started seeing all these other strains popping up, I'm like, what happened to skunk number 1, dude? How come nobody's talking about that? Well, fuck skunk number 1. These 22-year-old kids want to smoke something that tastes like a Pez dispenser. They don't give a shit about your smelly weed.
Not Pez.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just one of those things. It's the new strains are part of marketing strategies, unfortunately. So, but the old ones were too, but just underground.
Pez took me back, man. If you know about Pez, man, let's go. Let me know in the comments below. Pez was, man, those was like, you felt like you got a deal when you got a Pez. You're like, oh, it's a whole toy and some candy.
Some of the side effects from ice cream cake are, the positive ones are sleepy for some reason, relaxed and hungry. The negative effects are dry mouth, anxious, and dizzy. And
happy,
the flavors
hungry,
sleepy. And the flavors are vanilla, butter, and pepper. I had some different sort of peppery versions of that strain, so that's cool that they put that in there. Number 3 on the list, absolutely one of my all-time favorite strains. And matter of fact, I just got almost a half ounce of it today from Good Chemistry. Absolutely one of the greatest out there, folks. GMO Skittles. You might be asking yourself, why is Skittles spelled like that? Well, the simple fact is this. The candy company did want not anything to do with this Skittles. And they didn't want the person who was marketing and selling this cannabis with that name attached to their beloved diabetes causing candies. So they went ahead and threw a cease and desist out there and said, do not use our name in your name anymore. And they went, all right, well, it's not Skittles anymore. It's Skittles.
They basically trolled them from A to Z. They just said, okay, fuck your S's. Yeah. Skittles.
Zuck it.
Skittles on that ass. AZZ. Yeah. That's interesting, bro. Yeah, because I'm like, stuff, when you say it, you're like, why didn't they just say Skittles? But there you have it. Skittles.
So, and I wanted to point out again, the GMO, we know what that stands for, right?
Genetically modified organism.
Damn you, man. No, it is not. It is garlic, mushrooms, and onions. And it's that new kind of strain, like I always point out, like lavender, that actually tastes like food. And GMO, when you smoke it by itself, very much has that really garlicky. I don't even know how. It doesn't make sense why that tastes good and smells good, if I'm being honest. I don't even know why.
I know there's some names you see, you're just like, why you want to be smoking garlic? Like,
but it's so good. It's so freaking good. I can't really explain it, but yeah, and that's the reason why. This strain right here, look at it, it's gorgeous. Multiple breeders have made GMO Skittles or close analogs. You will encounter different phenotype variances from jar to jar. Some phenos lean GMO, presenting more gas, garlic, and earthy cumin carophyllene spice with heavy effects. Others lean more Skittles with brighter limonene-forward aromas, colorful calyxes, and a more buoyant social high. So what they're saying here is that there's different versions of this depending on who you get them from. And that is the reason why I've been going to Good Chemistry for 15 plus years, because they've had the same grow. They've had these strains consistently this entire time. I don't have to go anywhere else. If I get GMO Skittles, I know exactly where it's coming from, and I know exactly what it's going to do for me. So if you can get somebody that can get you this kind of cannabis on a regular basis, you're a lucky person, because
consistency.
Yeah. And that strain in particular is really, really hard to consistently get.
I think that's what anything, most places you'd like to go eat somewhere because you consistently get the same food every time. Just like it's no different than any other product or service. You want the same shit. I want my shit.
Open a jar of GMO Skittles and expect a loud 2-act performance. Savory fuel first, then candy fruit on the exhale of the sniff. The initial impression often features diesel, garlic, pepper, and a hint of earthy coffee, reflecting carophyllene and humulene expression from the GMO side. As the bud breaks, sweeter notes of the lemon lime, berry syrup, and tropical hard candy appear, pointing to limonene and linalool contributions from the Skittles lineage. Folks, you just heard a whole bunch of terpene talk in there. I hope you understood all of that. If not, go back and listen to it, because those particular terpenes are some of my favorites. And we're talking about the things besides THC that make up the wonder of the cannabis plant, the cannabis bud, and that definitely is terpenes. They play a part in all this. So, have you had GMO Skittles?
I've had not Skittles.
You've not had the Skittles.
No, right. Because some of this, it's interesting because some of these things, like you hear the names, you're like, oh, it's a turnoff. Like you think, GMO, like, why would I want to smoke a genetically modified organism? What the fuck? Like, if you don't know the names, it can kind of, maybe rob you of a great experience. And so, I think that's something I've learned today, is not to get so hung up on the names, because a lot of this candy shit, you know what I mean? It's like, is it named that way just to attract you, or does it have a reason? Like with Skittles, now I know, okay, where the origins came from. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check out some Skittles next.
It's the reason why you don't see, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, and it makes you also wonder why GMO couldn't have just been called OMG. And that way we wouldn't have to associate it with GMO. We could just call it onions, mushroom, and garlic and be gone with it. Oh my God, dude, you smoked that, bro? It tastes like food.
I'm on that OMG pack.
I'm smoking the OMG, bro. Yeah, man, they could have done that, and then we wouldn't have this conversation, but we wouldn't have had this episode if it wasn't for that. I smoked it for the first time a few years ago at Good Chem, and I was blown away by it. It just it's odd that I can smoke something and get kind of really high from it. That's just from years of me smoking cannabis. Most of it gives me a very level, good feeling, but sometimes I'll get something that'll punch me in the head. GMO Skittles does it all the time. So hooray to them.
I think that's what I like so much is, that's what I was going to ask you, like, what source was you reading that from? Because I was thinking, like, who the hell wrote up that? Like, how, and then, you got somebody like you that can break that down. But at the same time, it's like, shit, I don't know where I was going with this anyway. It'll come back to me in a minute.
Oh no, that's all right, man. It's this particular website is called Joint Commerce.
Yeah, that's something I'm at the point where I can describe what I'm experiencing. You know what I mean? To that, I just like, it gets me high, or makes me feel good, or makes me sleepy, or makes me hungry, happy, sleepy, whatever. I don't think I've gotten to that point, and that's why I'm like, it's crazy how when you're reading that off, like for it to be broke down like that. You know what I mean? For it to be that technical, like.
I'm telling you,
who sits back and does all that? It has a piney truffle cone chocolate smell from the 1980 strain of.
This is how I knew.
It's technical.
I know that these are my people when I read that kind of shit. I know that these are my people. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where your folks. Vondell, what's going on? We got folks right there. What's good, fam?
What up,
we're here talking about cannabis strains, man. That one in particular always did some good things for me, man. So I'll continue to go back to that over and over.
I just think I got to do a better job maybe now, opening it, smelling it, that whole process, and then trying a new strain, and then how does it make me feel? What do I
Here's
taste?
What I'll tell you
what
there.
do I scent? Like, to be able to try to start breaking stuff down.
There's levels to this cannabis thing, and all I can say to you is I wouldn't expect you to get to the level until you're ready to get there. The cool thing about it is if you want to know more and learn more, there's more to know and learn with cannabis. Most people think that they got it, they smoke it, they know what cannabis is. If you start deep diving this shit, you're going to start saying to yourself, wow, this is definitely not just what I thought it was. There's a multitude of things that make up for it, make up cannabis itself, a multitude of things that it does for you, and a bunch of different things that different strains do. So it's not any different than, being into different flowers. There's all kinds of species of cannabis, and they're all amazing, man. And they all do some really, really crazy things, including getting you really high and making you want to beat the hell out of your fridge. All right, we still got time. We're on time. BG, this has been really, really well paced. What do you think?
Man, I'm just, like I said, happy to show up every Wednesday to learn something. So if you learned something today, make sure to leave us a comment. Let us know, what did you learn new today? Because I know I'm not the only one learning something new here. Because I wouldn't expect to be at that level either, Bob. And like I've always considered you like a cannabis mentor, especially after you helped me get my Washington State bud license, or my license to smoke, the Department of Health, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're a veteran and you're watching this and you're in a state where you can get recreational or medical, preferably medical, check into it as a alternative, you know what I mean, for pain management instead of, popping pills. It is an alternative. So check it out. But no, I always learning new stuff here. And I think that's what's always kept me interested about bud in general, is just learning something new every time, because it's so much to learn. You know what I mean? Like, who the hell writes all that shit up on that website? Like, how do you know all of that?
They figured it out. That's a good thing. People are looking deep into it, and I love that kind of stuff.
I think that's the biggest thing with this when it comes to cannabis, for folks that, it's weed. Oh my God, the devil's lettuce. Oh my God. It's just education.
Yeah.
It's just education.
A lot of those people, I don't want them to know why it's great, because I feel like they probably don't deserve it, but I'm wrong. Everyone should understand the true benefits and even, bad things that come with cannabis. And you'll realize it is definitely nowhere near the alcohol you're drinking on a regular basis in terms of dangers to your body and others around you. So number 2 on the list of modern all-time cannabis strains, runts. Now here we go. We're talking about Skittles.
So maybe I have Skittles. I've had runts. I'm sorry about
if you've had, because that's what makes it that runts against. Runts is sort of like a different version of that candy. It's the hardcore, the hard, crunchy version of those runts. They had the banana that everybody threw away because I couldn't stand it. But all the other flavors were great. But we're talking Skittles with gelato, which gelato is already a wonderful flavor of a cannabis. But the Runts cannabis strain didn't take long to catch fire. Word of mouth spread fast in California's exotic market. Then came the bags. Those colorful Mylar pouches that signaled something rare and top shelf. Around the same time, rapper Young LB, who was closely tied to the brand, started promoting Runts heavily in the music and cannabis scenes. Suddenly, Runts wasn't just a strain anymore. It was a lifestyle. The original Runts has bag appeal, and when grown right, bright green and deep purple coated with frosty trichomes is what you will get. That's a bunch of delicious wording right there.
Yeah. I think that's why I've had runts before. I didn't realize, because I didn't start paying attention to what was inside of like you like, what is it made up of? Until talking with you. But yeah,
once you start doing that, once you start figuring out the lineage of these strains, when someone presents you with the strain and you ask them what makes that strain what it is, and they tell you, then you could already sort of say to yourself, I know what the baseline effects are going to be of this cannabis, because I know what Hindu Kush does and I know what G13 does. Do you know what I mean? So that's what makes it easier as a consumer to be smarter. But you don't necessarily need that.
It also helps with pain management, because okay, if I got high anxiety, this normally helps my anxiety go down. This strain typically, or if I'm, I need to sleep, I need to smoke this type of strain of indica. You know what I mean? There's that holistic journey inside that too as well.
And again, when you're talking about those sorts of conditions, anxiety and stuff like that, sleeplessness, indicas, it's all you want to do. You don't even want to go near sativas when you got those. Those are just going to exacerbate things, or actually not exacerbate it. I didn't mean to say that. It won't help it though. Because
I realized it when I went through my little indica run here recently. I shared with you in the green room before. You know what I mean? I was just like having trouble sleeping. You know what I mean? Had a lot going on. Got a lot going on. You slow down. You know what I mean? Yeah, sativa is going to keep you up and running, high performing. I need to go in the bed, in the couch, smoke a little indica, slow down and get some sleep. But, for sure. Yeah, indica on the high anxiety, for sure.
Well, this number one strain, as far as I'm concerned, and it just can't be denied. This strain right here was the other one that I made a lot of fun of, along with Ice Cream Cake, because I was tired of seeing it all over the damn place. It was really getting me upset that I couldn't find Romulan anymore. So, number one all-time modern cannabis strain. Hey, you guessed it. Girl Scout cookies. Now, the modern version of this cannabis will be called GSC, because you guessed right. The Girl Scout Association of America decided they did not want to be part of the cannabis culture. So that is why you will be calling this GSC, in some cases, Dosey-Dos. There's different offshoots that you couldn't.
I see what they did there.
They couldn't get the proper name, so they just used the different version of it. So this one in particular, Girl Scout cookies, OG Kush and Durban Poison. Now, I've had both of those on many regular basis, because Durban Poison is one of the first sativas I was able to smoke because it did what it needed to do. It didn't get me too paranoid, but those two mixed together, the purples and the flavors, it's undeniable, and it gives it this minty flavor. Now, the Girl Scout cookies was supposed to not be a broad spectrum of Girl Scout cookies. The moniker was supposed to mean thin mint cookies, because that's exactly what it tasted like. Chocolate and a little bit of mint, and then just like the cookie-ish flavor on top of it all. And it really was a killer. The story of GSC begins with the collective breeders in San Francisco known as Cookies Fam, spearheaded by notable figures like Berner and Jigga. The group was focused on creating exotic genetics that prioritize sensory appeal as much as potency. In the early days, GSC was a clone-only secret shared among inner circles in the Bay Area. But as the strain grew in popularity, extractors realized that GSC had a unique resin consistency. The trichomes were exceptionally oily and rich in monoterpenes. In a standard cured concentrate, GSC can lose its sparkle, tasting more like earth and spice. However, live resin extraction changed the game. So this particular bud has been figured to not only be a really, really great flower cannabis to market as a dispensary or as anything else legal. They found that the resin that it produces is also a secondary amazement, and they're able to produce all kinds of other things along with the resin, live resin, obviously, and different versions of that. So Girl Scout cookies did a bunch of things, but as far as I'm concerned, it's really the one and only strain that Berner did such a great job advertising that I saw people who absolutely had no idea that it was a cannabis strain were wearing those sweaters and those hoodies because they were everywhere. And it was a statement, and it was an intelligent thing that he did, connecting that cannabis to that fashion culture. But when I started seeing people that didn't smoke cannabis wearing cookie sweaters, that's when I kind of said to myself, this fucking guy has.
Well, that's a fashion thing. You know what I mean? Like Bass Pro Shops hats. Like, you ain't never dropped a hook in the water in your life. Got the nerve to have a Bass Pro cap on. And
we're talking about like a really, 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 really hardcore like push, advertising push. This is, I mean, it's amazing what Berner did. You can't, you don't have to love the strain, but you can't hate on what that guy did, man.
Berner,
he was selling a
trailblazer.
he was selling eighths for like $60 when everybody was selling them at regular prices and stuff like that. So, and he had people lining up at those stores. He had those pop-up stores. That powder blue color was recognizable. If you were a pothead, you were running to it because you knew that was top shelf, because straight up all of that bud was really good. I don't think that it warranted the price tag that it got most of the time, but it is what it is, man. Those were the top 5 modern day cannabis strains. We'll go through them again. Gorilla Glue number 4. God, look at that plant. Ice cream cake. Sexy. Ice cream cake. GMO Skittles.
Sexy, baby.
I want you to also realize that the reason why there is a Z at the end of Runts is the same reason why there is a Z at the beginning of end of Skittles, because the same company decided, I don't want to be involved in your cannabis either. So drop the name or change it. And they said, fine. Runt is what it is.
Z.
And Girl Scout Cookies, a.k.a. GSC, is the number 1 modern-day cannabis strain. I agree with all of them. Do you believe that all of those should be on those lists, my friend?
I mean, if you do, I do. Of course, I'm a cosign. But raise your hand if you're today's years old. I didn't know GSC and Dosey Do. I was like, why the hell, would they name a strain after animal or, Girl Scout cookies? But I never had put that two together. So that was the first thing that stuck out. But then lastly, with the cookies, I didn't know that story about Burner with cookies and the Girl Scout cookies that, how he parlayed it. That was pretty cool too as well. So always learning something new every hump day. I love it. But yeah, I agree with all the strains, bro. Like, come on now. I
want to throw this out there too.
A couple of them I hadn't had yet. So
the Dosey Does in particular is a indica dominant hybrid strain with qualities similar to GSC phenotypes. So it's basically in the family of Girl Scout cookies, but again, they wanted to make sure that they didn't use the proper name as well. And since you hear Dosey Do, you're going to think of one of two things: the dance or the cookies. And so I think most people realize that was part of the Girl Scout cookie moniker. So, because that's exactly what it is. Like they said, it's part of the GSC phenotype, not exactly GSC, but it's part of it, and it's everywhere. And kudos to Burner, because that just was insane how it just blew up.
Yeah, Burner's riding the wave right about now. I think he's got a lot going on. I know he's been in the media lately. Didn't he have a book or something come out just recently? He was talking about his whole journey.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Sterling says, I remember all those. That's
marijuana affects the memory.
It does not in your case, Sterling. Very good, man. That's good to hear. I'm glad that you remember all those strains. They're OG ones. The ones I grew up with are the first, 5, and I've smoked all the current 5, so I'm all right with all these. I think that these are amazing strains. I hope you folks learned something. I hope you folks had a good time listening to me yap about this cannabis and drool at some of these pictures, because I know it just seems like cannabis to some folks, but I actually still get excited by this plant. I get excited with the genetics and the breeders doing all sorts of new things with it too. I don't want the same strains to stick around as much as I probably sound like I do. That is not the case. I understand that things need to evolve, and these strains that we have right now are all evolutions of the strains that I mentioned before. Those first 5 strains are the backbone of a lot of this stuff, as you can see, because we could attach a lot of those old ones to these new ones. And I that was really my point in all of this. The lineage in the first 5 strains are found in the last 5 strains. And it's an amazing journey, if I'm being honest. If you folks ever want to learn any more about this cannabis stuff, come to my YouTube channel, Cultivating with the Cannabis Cowboy. On Instagram, it is Cultivating with Cannabis Cowboy. And I'm Bob the Cannabis Cowboy on Facebook. So look me up in all those places. That's my man, BG, Cowboys Unifier. He's all over the place. If you don't know how to find BG, that's just absolute craziness. There's no way you don't know how to find him. He's all over the place, man. What do you got going on next, BG?
Man, podcast after podcast after podcast, baby. It's podcast season. I got a feeling about them boys as we talk about them boys a little bit. But yeah, for sure. I'm always happy every Wednesday, to come tap in and get my education on. So if nobody learns anything here with you today, Bob, just always know you got an audience of one, man. I'm always soaking up that Heisenbud game, baby.
Beautiful, man. Well, we'll see you next Wednesday, folks. I really appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. Next week, Hump Day. Smokestream 2026. We're going to come up with something to talk about. God willing. Keep growing, folks.